Hi folks, welcome back to another episode of RDR. In front of me here has been my weekend project. This is the ThinkPad X23, which you know from the ThinkPad X23 series, which had Windows XP Service Pack 3 on it. Up until now, we are running now Windows 98 SE on the ThinkPad X23. I have been wanting to try this for a while, and I finally had the time this weekend to give it a shot, and it got to that point where I had to give it a shot. I wanted a computer running Windows 98 so I can get some of these DOS games I have to run. If you don't know, 98 and 95 versions of Windows run out of DOS directly. Windows Me doesn't really do that, which I have on the Compact 1692. So a lot of these games get a prompt when they accesses the DOS install saying this version of Windows doesn't support it. So I don't have the exact techniques as to why all that is. I'm not an expert at old Windows. I'm very amateur to novice, to be honest. But that was my reasoning for wanting to do this, to downgrade this computer and put Windows 98 on it. Plus, I just love Windows 98. It's so much more nostalgic than Windows XP to me. So here it is. After many more hours than I anticipated, I have Windows 98 SE with Service Pack 3, which is a fan-made service pack, and it has USB 2.0 support. This was not an easy project. This was a very learn-as-I-go project. Now, this was my first time ever installing Windows 98 on anything other than an actual traditional computer that would accept it, with an actual copy. Now, did I use an actual copy? Actually, yes, I did. I used an actual Windows 98 SE install disk, and I attempted to make a boot disk from WinWorld. It wasn't going well. I don't know why. I don't know if it was the A drive not reading right, the floppy drive, I don't know. So what did I do? Well, thankfully there's an awesome retro computing community on YouTube. And thanks to some very fantastic people on YouTube, this was made possible. So my first shout out goes to a YouTuber that goes by the name of the Flying Scotsman. He is the reason this is here. He not only showed me how to use this Windows 98 CD-ROM to just do it fully from the CD-ROM, he also showed me how to back it up so the entire CD-ROM exists on the hard drive. So I just installed it from the hard drive. It was crazy awesome. Now, that allowed me to bypass all the issues I was having with this Windows 98 floppy boot disk, just running into error after error. That was the first big hurdle here. The second hurdle was finding the X23 drivers, which thankfully Lenovo has a ton of, about 50 of them. After a ton of trial and error of installing whatever I could, I was noticing a pretty common problem, which really showed its face when I tried to install the first game, which is a game called Battledrome for Windows 95 that obviously runs out of MS-DOS. As soon as I hit the install file, the screen would go black and nothing would work, and I'd have to Control-Alt-Delete to get back to Windows. Not only was that a little worrisome, I thought, well, it was the first shot, I'll restart things, I'll give it another shot. Happened again. This also crept up when I was installing the drivers that were kind of DOS-based ran drivers, and when I was trying to install my first attempt at the Service Pack 3. I was getting this black screen lockup when it wanted to enter DOS. I confirmed there was a massive issue when I went to start. Let me pull this into frame here a little bit better. When I would go to start and programs and select the MS-DOS prompt, which you may or may not be able to see on this video, I would get the same problem. That was worrisome because the whole point of this setup was to have MS-DOS. That was the whole point. Otherwise, I was just stuck with a Windows 98 computer that could run the same games I'm running on many other gaming rings I already have. So I was really close to giving up many times. In fact, I gave up once and put Windows XP back on here and immediately just gave it another go because I couldn't handle the fact that I lost the battle. So thank God I persevered. Anyway, this was a massive issue. So I started to troubleshoot other versions of DOS like MS-DOS 7.1. I mean, it went on. I mean, it was the most stressful Saturday ever, but also one of the most fun because I love doing this crap. But it also stresses me out to no end, especially when I'm at a standstill like this, because I was starting to realize like maybe this computer just wasn't up to snuff. Maybe this wasn't going to happen. Well, it turns out that through a technique using this other kind of fan-made version of MS-DOS startup, I was noticing a couple of errors, that it wasn't reading the optical drive and a couple of other errors. So I realized, move some things, that the docking bay that the X23 hooks up to here has not only the floppy drive, but it also has a DVD-ROM drive. Not a CD-ROM drive, a DVD-ROM, which MS-DOS does not recognize. I started scouring the internet again for drivers to try to make this happen. All I was finding was threads of people with the same issue with no real answers. And a lot of like, here's what I've done, none of it's worked. So I thought, well, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. This is rough. So, pop this thing off, restarted the computer. MS-DOS works absolutely fine. Thankfully. So, that's great. I have a Windows 98 ThinkPad X23 that cannot support the docking station. Well, I mean, it does, but just not MS-DOS. So, there's that. So otherwise, everything else is just fine with the crappy fact that I can't run any MS-DOS games with the CD drive hooked up, which that poses a problem. A lot of these MS-DOS games are on CDs. So I thought, well, I got a couple of USB ports here that aren't reading at all. And every time it tried to, it'd try to find the drivers, of course, and fail. So thanks to this next YouTuber, Chris Ray, for providing excellent USB drivers for Windows 98 SE and a great tutorial, I have Windows 98 SE USB 2.0 support. So, should have done that first, because one, I wouldn't have had to burn. Oh, let me show you. I wouldn't have had to burn, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 discs that I just burned alone just to make all of this happen, to get all the drivers, all the troubleshooting, which I kept, all this stuff. I could have avoided a lot of that if I would have done that first. I could have just used a USB port instead of disk after disk, which I'm actually glad I have these, but for other reasons. But dang. So another thing I was really happy to have had was, of course, a USB CD-ROM drive, because none of my computers, I guess one of them does now that I think about it. It's a computer I just got. I probably could have just used that. But anyway, this came in really handy. Now, this is not a DVD-ROM. This is a CD-ROM CDRW drive USB hookup 2.0. I am very hopeful that this will work. So, we'll see. Regardless, I have my USB support, which is really, really what I wanted. Because now I can get games onto the USB and just install them that way by copying onto the hard drive directly, which just sounds way better. So, that was crazy. So thanks to both of those YouTubers, I was where I was at. Now there was in between this whole fiasco, there was one other major problem. This was only running in 16-bit color mode, and it looked terrible. Before I had gotten all the drivers and scoured through that list, thanks to YouTuber Jack Millett, or Millet, I'm not sure how you say your name, I think it's Millet. Sorry if I butchered that, but Jack Millett has a great video with software on how to change the adapter to get 32-bit color mode instantly without the specified drivers. Now, once I got the actual driver for the ATI Radeon Mobility, it was fine. I saw it all updated, the adapter and everything already to be what it truly is, but it was a great workaround. So thank you for providing that, because it allowed me to troubleshoot and get to where I was going without having to look at this horrendous 16-bit color mode. It was just great. So thanks to those 3 people, I learned a lot, and I got my ThinkPad X23 to be a Windows 98 SE machine, truly, with USB support. I mean, absolutely fantastic. So it's just wonderful. Now, what's really cool about this machine is it is so fast. Absolutely flies. And of course, the hardware does not really match up to what Windows 98 supports. So not everything is accurate. You know, like there's a 80 gig hard drive in here, but it only kind of shows that there's 10. But I see that there's plenty of room. It doesn't really read the RAM right either. There's 2 gigs of RAM in here, and it only reads like that there's 512, but that's fine. The cool thing about the boot to DOS software I got, the fan-made software, is that it allows many options in terms of extended memory support, CD-ROM support. However, the CD-ROM support did not work for the DVD drive support. It just wasn't happening. So it's pretty cool. Let's dive in and try to install
Hi folks, real quick update on the X23. So the project has officially been shelved for now. I cannot get MS-DOS to recognize any USB device, that being even a CD-ROM, not DVD-ROM drive, flash drive of course, not surprising. Tried even clone drives, doesn't work. So I'm stuck. Either I need to find the hardware or I need to find some crazy loophole to get that to work. I'm probably leaning towards I just need to find some sort of detachable external hard drive that I can use for that ThinkPad, but it's all brainstorming at this point. If you know of any way to make that work, please let me know in the comments or have any ideas at all. I'd be happy to entertain anything at this point. I'm pretty much exhausted. It was a blast. I had a great time messing around with that laptop, but I've exhausted everything and I'm just at a point where I need to put it away for a while until I can really have some new ideas to tackle that with. So again, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Have a good day.